Hey listeners, this is Matan here, and before we play the episode, I wanted to start with a bit of a confession. So, as you guys know, we take turns editing the episodes. Phoenix edits some, Paddy, Alex, I edited a few, and I actually asked to edit this one because I wanted to sneakily insert this message before the episode actually plays. I think this is frankly a monumental episode in the history of Pros and Cons. As you guys know, we are a podcast by emerging writers for emerging writers. And something quite dramatic is happening, and that is that one of our very own is getting traditionally published. Now, that person, as you've probably gathered, is Ali Burnham. And her book, The Swallow, is coming out in November, traditionally published, and it is a super exciting moment. And I just wanted to say that before we start with the episode. And during the episode, we're going to analyze her book and talk about how each of us maybe contributed to the process, or either as beta readers or editors or whatever. But it's really a big moment, and I think that maybe she wouldn't want me to say that, but I've always felt like Ali was the tip of the spear in many ways for this group, always pressing forward. And she's had some incredible success in the past. She's an award winning script writer, and she wrote comic books, and she's been in writers' rooms. But this is still, I think, a huge moment. And I wanted to say that before we start with the episode, how proud I think we all are of Ali for getting to this moment and how inspiring it is. And for you listeners, if you are working on your own book, they say it takes a village. And I think this episode really shows that the circle you form around you can really help. But at the end of the day, this is all Ali. She took this from 2021, and here we are now. The book is coming out in November. Anyway, I spoke enough. One last warning, by the way. Actually, I'm not going to spoil it. Just have a listen. We hope you enjoy the episode. Thank you.
We're going in three, two, one.
Welcome to Pros and Cons, podcast by writers, writers. Brought to you by Precipice Fiction would like to acknowledge the people of the Durrag and the Eora Nations as the land of the podcast this was created on.
Okay. Stop. I have newfound appreciation for a cappella performers. This was fucking hard. This was fucking
amazingly
hard.
awful.
I feel so sorry for you guys who want part of this. Like, this is
all right. Thank you.
The abomination.
Anyone who hears it is automatically a part of it, so
that was
there's no escaping it.
That's true.
I can't wait to go back and watch the chaos of what that was.
All right, we've got that recorded in perpetuity. All right. Welcome to Pros and Cons, a podcast for writers by writers, because sometimes we feel like pros and sometimes we feel like cons. We've got an extra special episode today because there are not even 6 of us, there are 8 of us here, which is more than we've ever had before. We've got some special guests and some familiar faces. The only Precipice we don't have is Alex because, I don't know, he's allergic to fun. We're going to call him Fogjoy, and that'll be an excellent in-joke that we can all get by the end of this podcast.
For the book you haven't read yet.
So what makes this special? I'm your host, Ali, and we all got together because we decided, hey, one of us wrote a book and we should do an episode unpacking the book. And everyone here in the podcast is either a cheerleader, an alpha reader, or a beta reader of the early manuscript of this book. So we're going to be diving in, chatting about the experience of beta reading, all about the book, and it's going to be some crazy, chaotic, mutinous, piratic fun.
Arr.
So I'm going to throw it around the group so you can all hear everyone's voice and clue into everyone who's present. So as I throw it over to each of you, I'd like you to quickly, very, quickly introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about your own writing, and then I would also like you to tell our listeners how long ago it was when you last read the Swallow manuscript, because there's going to be some hazy details as we struggle to remember what was in the book. So if you could let us know, when you read it precisely, that's your jail get out of free card when you're hazy on details later. So I'm going to throw it over to the guy next to me.
Oh, hello.
Where will people recognize your voice?
You will recognize my voice as the introduction of this podcast. Hello, my name is Nate Gothard. I'm an actor and a voice actor, and I'm also the lesser half of this one. I had to choose my words carefully on that one.
The greater half.
At the moment, much more success. And yep, I would honestly have to hazard a guess that the last time I read something even close to The Swallow would have been about 2023.
So for context for those listening, it's now 2025.
Wow.
So yes, it's been a while ago.
And I think there may be one or two others here that read it as well.
Around the same
time. I actually kind of came in as like an alpha of the change of perspective.
Right.
Yes. So that was how early it was. Long time ago.
Great.
Anyway, that's me.
So we're putting Nathan in the alpha category. So I'm going to introduce you to the other alphas in our podcast. I'm going to hand it over to special guest. You've never heard her voice before. Please welcome Jay.
Yay! Hi, I'm Jay. I'm part of Ali's other writing group. An interloper. I know.
No.
I feel like I'm across enemy lines. So I guess I'm trying to think. I think the first time I read The Swallow was, I think, 2021.
Wow.
I think I was doing chapter swaps.
Yes.
With Ali. What was I sending you? I don't even remember anymore.
No, it wasn't Jack. It was your it was your fantasy.
Oh my God. I haven't seen that in so long. Now I only work on crime because murder, and bad people. Wow, that's right. Because I remember us both getting really excited about all the pirate stuff.
Yes, because we were pirating at the same time. Yes.
And my pirates were a lot less, what's the word I'm looking for? Factual, I would say. I would read yours and be like, I need to go do some more research, I think.
But yours had better internal thoughts than mine.
You know what? We both have our strengths.
As opposed to the external thoughts.
I feel like most pirates are kind of just like a child's make-believe version of what pirates should be anyway. Like pirates in popular culture, not so real. Not so real.
No, and I think when you write a pirate, it ends up being a little bit Jack Sparrow, even if you try not to be
like
Jack
it's just this monolith of the pirate archetype, and every other pirate has to live in that shadow. It either needs to be a reaction to that or in conversation with it somehow. So that's why
even people that are thinking about doing actual piracy, they're even like, I don't know if I could pull that off. Like it's just too much at this point.
That's the barrier to entry. It's
yeah.
A barrier to entry.
Cool, thank you, Jay. And our other alpha is the lovely Matan. Hello, Matan.
Hello. So I'm back here in this shared space that contains two writing groups, and this doesn't make me insecure or uncomfortable at all. And with that being said, I actually have
about
receipts.
Making you uncomfortable, Matan.
Yeah, I actually have receipts for when I read your book because I still have the folder called Editing for Ali. And I can actually tell you that the file is not named The Swallow. The file is named, you remember, The Good Brig Cypress. That's the name of the manuscript.
It's still named that on my computer. I have to click on the Good Brig Cypress. Yes.
So the date for the creation of that file is the 6th of September 2021.
Wow.
And just to show what a good beta reader I am, the beta reader report file is on the 21st of the same month. So pretty good turnaround.
You're a gun. And so
I really enjoyed it. Yeah.
The other thing you reminded me of the other day is not only have you read it once, you actually read it twice. And I don't think anyone else here couldn't say they read it twice. Like, what a maniac. Like, don't let me take advantage of you like that again. That's way too generous of you.
Yeah, I'm not sure how employed I was back then, but that could have been part of it.
Yeah.
I think it was during the time I was taking a course or something, but the point is that I read it. I think I annihilated it in like 2 weeks. I really enjoyed it. And then I go back to Allie and she's like, oh, I'm going to make all these changes. And I'm like, oh, okay, all right, because that was awesome. And then the second version came and I love that too. So we're still good.
I have a distinct memory of, I think you were living in Newtown at the time or somewhere around that. Because you told me I don't have digital notes for you. You're like, I've printed your whole thing off and I've done handwritten notes. So I drove to you to pick up the handwritten notes and drop off a bottle of whiskey. We did an exchange in Newtown.
Very good bottle of whiskey,
so
yeah.
cool.
It took me years to finish that. I think me and Ali discussed it. Like I kept waiting for the right moment to drink Ali's whiskey. And then you realize your life is not that special. Like you don't actually have special moments in your life. So you're just like, okay, I'm just going to drink it on a Monday night because supposed to nothing special ever happens.
Special. You made that Monday special.
Yeah.
Oh, that's nice. Anyway,
It's not about waiting for the moment. It's about making the moment.
Yeah.
That's a good whiskey commercial right there. Anyway.
Make it
Oh, wow.
special.
That's actually
True. That's not for sale. Big whiskey.
If there's any whiskey companies listening and they want to sponsor either the Swallow or our podcast,
Talisker specifically will reach out to.
there we go.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Let us introduce our beta readers. So for those who play along at home, so I'm using the terms alpha and beta reader as in alphas are like they get the very first raw, I haven't really edited it at all draft. So alpha readers play a really important role in being excellent like cheerleaders, just being like, yeah, you wrote a thing, it exists, thumbs up. But then also I ask my beta readers to be like hard on me. I'm like, I want actual notes. I want to kick this into shape, which all my alphas did. I mean, you kind of did, but definitely Jay and Matan did.
Context of anyone listening, I am the only one that is not a writer, so I am pretty out of my depth on any advice on that front.
He just gets to tell me he likes it, and that's his only role. And he did it spectacularly. Did it really.
And then also, it's my job to get in trouble when apparently I don't understand things.
That never happens. And then, so the beta readers. So after, we're going to talk about this a bit more in depth, but quite a fundamental shift happened during the edit where I made the decision to change the manuscript from third person to first person. And then, so I'm calling the beta readers the pool of readers who got it after that change happened. So please introduce yourself, James.
Hello, I'm James Healy. I'm a writer and a freelance editor. And I definitely did the beta read in 2023, I think. I'm pretty sure you sent it to me before I moved back to Ireland, and then I didn't get around to reading until after I moved back. I'd probably read a few chapters that had been kind of worked on in Jack's writing group, which was another writing group. So I'd probably seen a few chapters of it before. But yeah, it was 2023 when I got the full read of the whole thing. And yeah, I remember you telling me that it had been originally written in third person and having a difficult time trying to remember those chapters I'd read previously because it seemed so seamless and it seemed to work so well in first person because the main character has such a strong voice, and that kind of voice is the voice that's telling the story, which works really well with it.
Well, thank you so much, James. I'm gonna go do all my big thank yous in a minute once you're all introduced, but no, thank you for that. And Paddy was our other beta reader. Hello, Paddy.
Hello, I'm Paddy Boylan. I have been a creative writer, creative writing teacher, and manuscript editor. And speaking of, I didn't just beta read this, I was paid to edit this.
That's right. I gave you some. I'm like, can you do this?
You did.
Do it at your standard. Yeah.
And I'm assuming you had another editor after me, right?
Oh, well, I mean, I've had my publisher across it.
Yeah. I bet it's been through
3 hours ago. Fuck me. I can talk about that in a minute, but you continue your
intro. Yeah. I read it both when it was first person and I was like, Jesus, what's not the first person? Third person. I'm supposed to be a creative writing teacher. This is awful. And it was wonderful. And it got more wonderful with the second iteration. And what I was most blown away with was your research and attention to historical detail. like I was looking for things that were wrong. I had Wikipedia, some nautical websites open. I was like checking up on stuff. And it was mostly spot on. And I actually learned a lot of nautical stuff through this book as well, which I love. Like that's my favorite thing about historical fiction is like learning the history. Book good. I don't know what else to say. Book good. The Swallow is wonderful, and it's coming out soon.
November.
November.
Well,
listening
it
to it now.
no, it depends on how quickly we edit this episode. It could be out for months by the time this episode.
You're listening to this after November.
Just check.
2021. You can get it. It's out.
2021.
20.
Holy crap! We're traveling back in time.
2025.
Yes.
25. Sorry, we've had a lot of 2021s happening. No, thank you, Paddy. And yes, no, my goal is one. It's a stupid creative writing decision. So make this same decision in your manuscripts at your own peril, listeners. But I instead of being like my main character is the amateur in a world of experts, so you get to be the fish out of water learning the world. I had my main POV character as the expert, surrounded by a bunch of fish out of water. So he's the one teaching them all the nautical and correct ship life. So that forces me as the writer that I have to be the stance of authority on all things nautical, which I wasn't at all, or still not, but just got really good at pretending.
Yeah.
So if everyone's an expert at all things ship life and nautical by the end of this book, then perfect. That's the ultimate goal, really. And then the final two people to introduce, who I am calling my wonderful cheerleaders. So these two have been incredibly supportive the whole way through. I'll let A2 talk about how involved she's been in kind of the research and boots on the ground stuff. But yes, no, there's something really special about these are just writing buddies who have absorbed the whole ride across 5 years, and then the version they will read will be the final version, and that's kind of really cool. So I've mentioned A2, so I'm going to throw it over to A2. Please introduce yourself.
Hello, I'm also Ali, or A2. I'm a writer and a bookseller, and I think my main claim to fame when it comes to The Swallow is that I have been on one, and by the time the book comes out, will have been on multiple research trips with Ali and with Jay as part of our other writers group to visit various locations that Dear Will actually went to and that featured in his life and his story. One trip to Tasmania like a year and a half ago now.
Yeah.
And then in 2 weeks we're going to Japan.
Fuck me, 2 weeks time. We're going to be in Japan. And yes, we're going to be visiting Mugi Bay.
Yep.
For the book to be released.
Yes. So that's spoilers for book 2, everyone. No.
Yes, I'm also going to ask A2 and Phoenix to kind of referee this chat for all our listeners at home, because there might be a little bit of assumed knowledge and we're not fully explaining things. But I don't think it's been explicitly said that Swallow coming out in November is a book 1 of a trilogy. So God help us, I'll have to start writing book 2 shortly. But before we get to that, let's at least take tonight to celebrate that one book has happened before I immediately stress myself out about another book. And then our final person to introduce, cheerleader. You know him from the podcast. Please introduce yourself, Phoenix.
Hello, I'm Phoenix. And I just want to say really quick, because Ali said we're celebrating because she wrote a book. No, we're celebrating because she wrote a book and sold a book. Not only sold a book, sold a trilogy. It's a very big deal. We're all very proud of her. And so we're all here celebrating, having a little pirate party. Because it's a big deal, and I don't think she sold it quite enough at the beginning. So I just wanted to throw that out. I am Phoenix from all the other episodes that I am on of this podcast. I'll just leave it there. But I am a cheerleader. I have been living in Matan's shadow, who always just picks up everyone's man, because you're always. You're the actual cheerleader where you're just like, you wrote a thing, let me read it immediately and give you really good feedback. And I'm just like, dang, that's amazing. And I'm just on the side not reading people's stuff.
It's just you're a busy professional editor.
It's just my ADHD. Okay, I have to finish things abnormally quickly or I explode. Unless it's my own writing, by the way. My own writing is exempt from this description.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that hurts.
My claim to flame, claim to flame. My claim to fame with the swallow is that about, I don't know, a little less than a year ago, Ellie and I decided, yeah, we'll do a manuscript swap. And we did, and then like months went by and we both mutually came back and were like, I didn't read like any of your book. I'm sorry, there's been way too much.
It's like, I'm so sorry, I haven't even opened it. And then you're like, that's okay, I haven't opened yours.
Yep.
Yeah.
Apart from that, just like very early chapters from the writing group back in when I was still in Australia, back in Jack's writing group. I remember some of those readings. And yeah, that's about it.
Well, thank you. And so I'll get the sappy stuff out of the way. I wanted to thank you all. Like this is an excellent opportunity to kind of gather all the beta readers together. Without all of your early encouragement and telling me that yes, the jokes are actually funny and that you are actually enjoying it. Because for so long I thought I was just writing something that had like an audience of one, like in terms of the Venn diagrams of someone who would actually be interested in, you know, an adventure historical fiction, but with all the queer elements, but then it's also a comedy. Like it's a weird pitch. So for all of you to kind of be like, no, we're actually enjoying it, and you say that to the point I believe you and I don't think you're lying. Thank you for that early encouragement. And then on top of that, you're also all incredibly fucking talented. Like you're all fantastic editors. Each and every one of you gave incredibly good advice. And the manuscript only kept getting pushed better and better because of all your insights, and you all have different strengths and different things you look for. So this is me thanking you and telling you that there wouldn't be a book without all of you. So thank you. That's yeah. I'm in awe of all of you. Thank you. Very, very grateful. So for all our listeners, or if this is your first time listening and you don't know what the swallow is, you haven't heard me talk about the cypress for several years, here is the synopsis. Swallow. The true story of William Swallow, Australian convict and the last man put on trial for piracy in an English court. It's 1829, and Swallow has been sent to Van Diemen's Land for the second time. He is sentenced to die in the hellhole known as Sarah Island, but he has other ideas. On the journey from Hobart to his final prison, he rallies his fellow convicts and leads them to mutiny. Bruised by the betrayal of John, a fellow convict friend and lover, William plans to sail back to England, back to his wife Susanna and their young children. Swallow is one of Australia's most romantic and untold stories. Blurb's words, not mine. At its heart, this historical fiction novel explores our most primal urge to be free from what seeks to cage us, whether that be chains, separation from home and family, or society's morals that tell us who we can and cannot love.
That's a great blurb.
That was really good.
Really
good. Good job.
I'm not a fan
So
of
do I
blurbs
actually
usually. That's great.
do I actually have to wait until November to read it? Because I think that's really mean of you.
You've been sold on. Well, okay, so the news is the reason I'm so brain dead right now is the ARC was just signed off like an hour and a half ago.
The ARC? What is the ARC?
The advanced reader copy. So this is the digital PDF that's going to go. It goes to books and publishing because they're going to disseminate it through. It's all the review copies that'll happen kind of behind the scenes in the lead up to November. It goes to the distributor, the ARC, because I've got a few talks lined up in November as well. Like I'm on a panel at History Unbound, and the launch, I'm chatting with someone at the launch. So they need the ARC obviously ahead of the release so they know what they're talking about. Yes, the locked ARC. So it's still, there's going to be a period for proofreading still, for an external person to do the final catch anything, but in terms of like line edits being locked off, it happened an hour and a half ago. My last 48 hours. My experience is probably a little bit different to most writers because I'm literally like in the same office building as the person, like my publisher. Just anecdotally, yesterday, the two of us spent an hour editing one paragraph together.
Oh, God.
It was a very important paragraph, but literally we were sitting at the same keyboard on the same screen. He would kind of do an edit and I would watch him and he was kind of fixing some logic things because I was trying to do some complicated metaphors. It's an important paragraph. It's happening during Will's hallucination scene, right at the end when he's locked in his cabin.
Ali, this is somehow my worst nightmare and biggest fantasy at the same time. Sitting side by side
I've never
with my editor.
done this much, like in terms of this was the most intense line editing I've done in my life, happened yesterday. So yeah, he would edit the paragraph and then he would push the keyboard back over to me. And so I could kind of see what he was trying for, but then in my mind I'm like, well, we've lost this. I need to keep that and that for it to work. So I then massage the paragraph in real time in front of him, slide the keyboard back. And we did that for an hour just to get this one paragraph right. I don't think that's really typical of most publisher-writer relationships, but it's just because we happen to be in the same building. We're running towards this deadline. This is an important paragraph to get right. Because I guess for context, I've spent an entire book setting up metaphors around William, an entire book setting up metaphors around Susie, and setting up all these metaphors around John. I guess we'll explain who these people are later. They're three important characters. I'm attempting to bring all those metaphors together in one paragraph during this hallucination scene. So it was kind of the whole point of the book is like this one paragraph. So we're taking the time to. We both understood that it's like if any paragraph in the whole book's worth this attention, it's this paragraph. So yes, I'm completely brain fried because the past 48 hours has been this level of line editing, but it's done. I'm celebrating with a little bit of whiskey right now because it was locked, it was sent off. There's honestly not much. It was just a coincidence we were doing the podcast the day that we locked the arc. Woo.
Cheers.
Well done.
Thank you. So yes, a part of me was like, cool, I get to go home and talk more about Swallow, because it's been full on. But no, I love it. I get to talk about you guys. So putting the emphasis back on all of you, and this is really fun for me to hear and kind of celebrate. I wanted to go around all of you. And talk about the jokes, talk about the humor, and if from your memory, last time you read the manuscript, is there a particular joke? Is there a particular funny moment that has stayed with you? I'll put my husband. Oh no!
Sorry,
okay,
no.
Jump in first.
Jump in.
What joke stood out to you?
I fear the chunder out the southern end. I think about that once every few months, probably. I know I'm 12 years old, but the chunder at the southern end.
Chunder out the southern ends. Readers get to look forward to that. That happens quite early
They do.
in the book. That's
A delightful moment. Anyway.
It's hard to say that like particular jokes stand out for me. So I may take a moment here. There's the physical gag of you'll run into a character known as Chicken Wing, which is a whippet, and I believe it's where William finds just a shit at the front of his cabin door. And how did it go? He's like, I hope that's from the dog. He seems to have upset the crew at the time.
Yes, no, to paraphrase, yes, no, he's annoyed at the dog, and he's like, this dog's really annoying. It took a shit outside of my cabin door this morning, and then he kind of backtracks and goes, well, at least I hope it was the dog. It's I'll admit so I'd forgotten I'd written that joke. So a sign of a writer, a good writer, a bad writer, laughing at your own jokes. I'd forgotten about that joke during one kind of proofing read, and I'm just going along, and that managed to make me go, oh, fuck, that's funny. And then I immediately felt bad for laughing at my own joke. Matan, do you remember a funny moment?
So here's the thing. I read this twice, but the most recent one was probably 3 years ago. But what I really liked is that whenever William, at least when I read it, had to choose between saying what would save him and saying what would amuse him, he almost always chooses to say what would amuse him, often at the cost of his own physical health, especially when the person in front of him is very much in position to inflict a lot of harm. And in particular, I like the dynamic between William and one particular, we'll call him a harmful person on the ship that was very much bigger than him and when I read it, I had a very funny accent. I want to say Scottish, Irish.
So this is such a fun fact. So the
Oh.
version you read, he was Scottish. He has since become Irish. And that was
Okay,
just
good.
me finding a research file and being like, fuck, I put him in the wrong country. He's actually Irish.
I love it. I want to see the Irish version, but I'm trying not to spoil. How spoiler careful are we here?
Oh, that's
Okay.
not an answer. I'm sorry, that's a noise.
Okay, sure.
We'll try and skirt around the big stuff, I guess. But
Yeah.
let's talk
just
enough detail to make this exciting, though.
just a heads up, I put an editor's note for I'll cut the bit about him being locked in the cabin.
Oh,
Like,
that's probably
yeah.
that's
Yeah.
like the finale. My bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm glad you picked up on that. And you're a cheerleader. You're just like, ooh, that sounds spoilerific. Jay, is there a moment you remember?
For me, personally, I love William cracking the shits about how many people are called William. Because I'm a tour guide, so ever since I now notice how many historical figures are called William. So it doesn't matter where I am in Australia, the second I read that there's a William, I like giggle to myself. I'm like, Will would hate that. He'd be so cranky. And I just call back all the time. I really like it.
This is a
Oh
fun
my
fact I get
gosh.
to put it in my author's note, but literally no Williams are invented at all. I haven't added any Williams for the sake of that joke. It was just kind of during my initial planning, being like, who are all my characters? Who is actually the cast of these historical events? And I'm like, here's a William, here's a William, here's a William. And after a while, I realized I'm working with this egotistical character who's how would he feel surrounded by so many Williams just being
That's so good.
it was a joke that wrote itself. And it was kind of only very late game that I realized he also has a son named William. All right. I kind of had to fix that. I don't even think James or Paddy had that version. So that's the very latest draft. I had to fix the kids' names because even just things like birth certificates and christening certificates are still being found in real time. And that's been a trick over these past 5 years is that I've been very careful about my research periods and my writing periods because kind of cross-pollinating the two stresses me out. Like if I'm constantly looking for new facts while actually writing, that's really tricky. But say I finish a draft and then I start researching again, and then I'm like, well, someone's uploaded the christening certificates. I now know the kids' names, and I'm like, I guess I'm doing another pass. So that goes part of the way to explaining why this took 5 years. Matan.
No, not to change the direction this conversation is sailing, but something really interesting about your story is that you write in historical fiction. But I find that if you write historical fiction a certain distance away, you can kind of do certain things that you could not, because like you said, you write in historical fiction, but it's not that far. It's actually kind of on the precipice of the modern world because we have birth certificates, we have documentations.
Yes.
So you kind of have that crutch, but also a little bit of a cage. So I'm really keen on how you felt about it. Did you feel intimidated by the fact that someone can pop and say, actually, they've not been to Japan before? Or are you excited that your story is more rooted in like gettable evidence and that kind of stuff?
So yeah, two notes on that. So sorry, choking. This story, it's set primarily in 1820 and just at the very start of like 1830. So for those playing at home who are good at math, it's about 200 years ago, roughly. The kind of bicentennial of the trial will be 2029. So in terms of behind the scenes stuff, we're aiming for book 3 to come out by 2029 is the goal.
And you have you have documents from the trial, right? You have actual transcript. You have transcript from his trial, which is nuts.
Yes. Yes. So I found that by 1840, kind of the UK and therefore the colonies in Australia had really good bureaucracy and documentation. So like from 1840 onwards, if you're writing, you've got access to everything. There's no facts lost to history pretty much. Like 1840 onwards is really well documented. So 1820 and 1830 is still a little messy. They haven't quite perfected their documentation yet. There's even just the way names are spelled are constantly changing. People are still illiterate enough that they're just making up the spelling of their name like moment to moment when they have to write something down. So that things have been lost between 1820 and 1830. So there's just enough gaps for me to play a little bit because this just whole thing doesn't exist. And John Wilkinson in particular, where William Swallow himself is quite well documented, John Wilkinson is not. And that's fantastic for me because I can just kind of, well, like, did he ever go through with his flogging? It's like we know he was sentenced to flogging, but a lot of people were sentenced to floggings they never actually received. And I have no way at this time of speaking to know if he actually received the 150 lashes he was sentenced to. And I don't think he was actually. That's just me reading into history.
150. Wow.
Yes. So William was sentenced to 150 lashes. He should probably be dead, but he survived it.
Again, now you're jumping into more spoiler territory.
It's not
You're
spoiler.
in the book 2 territory.
No. That's very, very present from.
All right.
I mean, Nate, it's a trilogy. Of course, you survived.
I know. If people are going to buy the book, they're buying in. I get it.
But
What is a spoiler when history once again becomes our future? Becomes our future, you know.
This was me reading the Thomas Cromwell series, because I didn't actually know that too much about Thomas Cromwell.
I went to his Wikipedia page after book 1. What an idiot!
No,
yes,
no.
Yeah.
I forced myself not to Google Thomas Cromwell until I finished the series. It was really hard though.
So about the second point, did you like
yes, to answer your question, I actually like the guardrails. Like, the more I know, I don't know if it's my particular kind of sorting and organizing, but I'm like, as many facts as I can find out. I'm like, all right, there's my timeline. How can I create the ups and downs of an actual character arc and the narrative structure work on this timeline? And it was actually a real bitch to do. I speculate that the reason William's story hasn't really been told in fiction before is because it's very hard to make it work in a narrative structure. It's just not neat. Can it be told in one book? You know, you're asking me. I don't think it can. I think to do the story justice, it actually needs to be separated out into 3 blocks. It's the only way to really tell his story, because there's just so many moving pieces. I'm like, how would you even make that a single structure? So I couldn't crack that up.
Or an HBO, miniseries. If anyone's listening, that's got
that's what it's got to be. All right, so
returning to the jokes, though, I think there was a couple.
Yes. Anyone else have any jokes?
Missed out.
James has put his hand up for jokes.
Yes, there's a scene in about the middle of the story where William has asked one of the other crew members to move barrels of water from one side of the ship to the other, and this serves as buoyancy for the boat. And this guy is fed up doing it, and he's given Will a load of flack back, and he's like, what's the point of this? Why do I do it? And there's a lovely little paragraph explaining what the purpose of that is and why it's done. And that paragraph ends with the line, because it's like Jack explaining it to the guy, or else it's him thinking it, but it ends with the line, or dare I say, move the bloody barrels, or something to that effect. And I just loved that line. I just thought it was so funny. And generally that chapter is full of that kind of stuff. And I remember laughing out loud when I read that line. So I love that one.
No, thank you for sharing that. Yes, no, the humor was important to get right. I guess, I don't know, anyone who's ever tried to write humor, it's like it's such a subjective thing, and you're like, it feels really vulnerable to write humor because you're like, am I going to get this right? Is this going to land? Because if it literally doesn't land, it's like you may as well pull the plug on the whole project. Really.
I think the only thing you can do is make yourself laugh, right? If you're making yourself laugh, one person at least enjoys it, and chances are more will.
And there's always aspects of like humor through the ages, and I know obviously there's wildly different insults which are quite prevalent through the story that you also had to research, and making sure that's accurate. Because a character who is charismatic, charming, and utilizes his wit has to have a lot of that intelligence. And there's just this. It's hard to put down in that context because it's such a stark thing. Like we have these men that are being transported essentially to their deaths, and like everything, there is humor found in darkness all the way through.
Black humor of it, the situation. Yes, when you're stuck in a situation so dire that the only thing you can kind of do is, yeah, the escapism, laughter of it.
Also, I love the joke. I think it's Jones. Someone's talking to Jones, and it's one of the convicts. And I think in this, Jones is black. And there is a remark, because I know that Jones is from Liverpool, and he just literally, one of the convicts makes a quip as to the whole, oh, where you're from. And for those in Australia who remember the Makona ads in the early 2000s, the really Shropshire.
I think about it all the time.
It was that kind of gag where he
Yes.
just turns to him and goes, I'm from Liverpool, you twat.
Yeah, it
Or
was.
whatever.
I think it was. I'm from Essex, you biscuit. If I remember it correctly. I'm sorry to report that gag didn't survive the final. That one's been cut.
That'll go back in the series.
All right, I'm going to steer the question towards our cheerleaders. Hopefully, they haven't been too alienated by the share your favorite moment. So from, and I'm really interested in A2's perspective as a bookseller, but Phoenix as well, for everything you've absorbed from the outside, kind of hearing just moments of this story being shared and discussed as we're discussing now. When you get to pick up the book and finally read it, what are you looking forward to most? Yeah, what has hooked you? What intrigues you?
I gotta say, just hearing this round of jokes, I very genuinely have gotten very excited to read this book. Like, I remember from like when like our early Jack meetings back in the writers group, I did really like Swallow as a character. Like right from the get-go, I liked his rhythm, his just his presence on the page. So now hearing little snippets of kind of more of his interactions, I'm just like, ooh, I think I'm gonna like this. And especially like with all the due diligence you've done for like with your research and everything, those little details do so much for pulling someone in, especially me. So it's like, I think I'm gonna like this. So yeah, I'm excited.
Thank you.
I haven't even read book one, and I'm like, oh, there's a trilogy. Like, I'm like, I can't wait for
Give me
more.
book two.
Even though I haven't read the first one. Yeah.
I think I feel like I have a very interesting perspective on it just because I know the history of it so well now. From like particularly from when we're in Tasmania and we're like sitting in the Airbnbs at night and we're all looking up all those records, and like Jay found a whole bunch of records that like you hadn't seen before, and we went to the place, found out John had a wife. You know, so I think part of it is like now that I know this, like the history of it, the history story, the actual like step-by-step chronology of what actually happened to Will, I'm really interested to see how you've actually split it up into a narrative, and like where, yeah, like seeing how you have taken the actual history and built that into an actual narrative. And then as a bookseller, I'm just excited to share it with people.
Pirate story. Get your pirate story.
Yeah, you know, I'm gonna make everybody read it.
It was very funny.
Pay for it as well.
Well, good. One of the requests we got from Books and Publishing, being a November book, it's technically a Christmas book. So one of the they asked us for a paragraph on how would we frame it as a Christmas book, and I'm like, I don't fucking know. I'm still not convinced anyone would read it.
This is like Die Hard all over again. I'm just saying.
Yeah. No, Ali, this is the book that you buy for your brother-in-law.
Oh, I like that. Brother.
It's the book for your brother that you don't know what to get him, but he reads one book a year. You buy him this book. Ooh. This is, you know,
that's a good sound.
That's good. Yeah, you've done this before.
If I could ask a question, how would you, as a bookseller, frame this as the blind date with a book concept?
Oh, it's tricky without having read it, but also I'm very good at writing blind dates with a book for books that I've never read before. Big letters.
I knew that's how they do it.
Pirates.
Historical
fiction. Humor.
Yeah.
Easy.
Based on a true story.
Yeah.
Because historical fiction and based on a true story are different concepts. And honestly, that's it. I think that would be enough to sell it.
Those
Absolutely.
are
I'd buy that.
Yeah.
Yep.
I love Blind Date with a book.
I think how we ultimately ended up framing it is being an adventure story. It's kind of like it's the perfect summer read. You'll be on the water no matter where you are. I think we ended up submitting something like that. It's just like it's a holiday escapism adventure book. Read it over the summer. Do it. I think that's but I like the brother-in-law.
Yeah, no, that's like you've got to find, like with books, you've got to find the lowest common denominator. Like what's like the easiest sell that you can tell someone like buy this without giving them any context for the book. And that's it, right? Like I reckon you could sell it like that. Obviously, once I've read it, I will have a much more perfected pitch to actually put it in the hands of people who will read and love it. But in terms of just pure sales, brother-in-law.
Nice. Love it.
I think the audience can be actually wider than we expect, because there's a very tender love story here and a very tender and honestly sometimes upsetting story of self-destruction that I think you wouldn't find in a casual adventure swashbuckling pirate tale. I think it's the psychological layers here have many times, I'm not going to spoil, but there are moments that the protagonist does things that made me just go, man, please don't. Just don't do this. Do the other thing. And I think that's the kind of stories that, really make you hope that the protagonist, stops digging his own watery grave. So it is adventure, but I think it's almost like a book masquerading as adventure, while it's really about facing your demons and becoming better, if not for yourself, then for your kids and your wife.
Oh, that's really sweet of you to say.
It's not a pirate trope. It's a person who's actually going for their freedom, which people label as a pirate. It's a human on the page.
You just needed to steal a boat to do it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
It's a perfect segue. You mentioning William doing things that as a reader you're like, oh, can you not make that choice, please? I did want to bring up, because it's the midpoint of the story, and we don't have to discuss in detail. We can kind of talk around it, but I am bringing up the Dormer scene for those who have read it. And
I have actually read this. You read this one to me.
Oh, yeah.
At one of the retreats, I have actually. So this is the one scene I've
read. One scene you can speak to. Fantastic. Yeah. And the reason I probably did that, because I'm like, this scene needs a lot of work. I'm like, if there's any scene I need to get right in the whole book, it really needs to be this scene. And everyone who's read it has had strong opinions. Not like bad opinions, but in terms of like how many comments I'm getting like every second sentence, it gets a lot of comments from every beta reader who's read it because of the sensitive subject material. And I guess I'll at least give the context for the listeners that it's we're discussing content warning suicide around this, and William talking to someone contemplating suicide. So I guess this is a fascinating moment to ask all of you how you actually approach beta reading, like when you are an editor or a beta reader and you're reading something for someone, and it is this level of, oh, this is an actual scene we need to get right. This is a very tricky scene with tricky content. How do you approach that? How did you approach the Dormer scene? I would love to hear your thoughts from all you amazing editors.
Yeah, let them know. Be sensitive. Don't say like, wow, this is messed up, you can't put this. But I think you've got an obligation to let the person know. Otherwise, like, why are you beta reading? If you picked up on it, someone else will as well. And someone might have an even worse reaction than you. So especially if they're your friend, Ali, you got to tell them that, hey, this isn't working. I rubbed up against this. And I think if you try and protect their feelings around it, you're just doing them a disservice.
Yeah, I know that I think I read that scene about 4 different times.
I think you did too, because I kept coming back to you because I'm like, have I got it right yet?
I hadn't known you very long at the time of editing. So there was also this moment of, I don't think we'd quite figured out the style that worked for the two of us during our chapter swap. So I know I was quite hesitant at the start, but I think it helped that we'd already kind of discussed not having enough insight into what Will was thinking a lot of the time. And I remember that being the main thing I was bumping up against, because for me, that whole scene is when you realize Will's like an anti-hero, right? But you've kind of been playing along with him and all the things he does, and you're like, oh, this is okay because it's Will, and he does some crazy shit sometimes, and then he does this, and you're like, okay. Therapy was an option too, but okay. And so I feel like it was definitely, I put a lot of thought into what I said to you the first time around. And I think as like we traded the scene back and forth, it was easier to discuss certain things. And I think we figured it out. But definitely the first time I was like, oh, I don't know you that well yet. Like, I think it was like 4 months. And yeah, but it was good. Being honest was good.
It was. No, thank you so much. And I think I really respected your feedback. That's why I kept hassling you again for more feedback. But yes, just so our listeners at home, if I haven't said it explicit, we did say it explicitly, but yes, the manuscript underwent going from third person to first person. It was because I was butting my head up against this continuous feedback, not just from you, Jay, but a lot of early readers that we need more insight into Will's inner life. I wasn't quite cracking it. Even draft after draft, I'm spelling out his thoughts in third person, but it wasn't working. So I kind of made this radical decision to go first person, and I think it solved this problem I was having. And yeah, the Dormer scene I think is really important for how an audience relates to Will, and we need access to his internal monologue for this scene to kind of work.
Right. So first, very very shortly, and about the beta reader thing is I'm also an editor. I work with a publishing house. My advice to beta readers who also happen to be editors is, if your friend or anyone asks you to be a beta reader, take your editor self and lock them in the basement, because they do not belong in this process. You are not editing their book right now. If they ask you to edit. But if they ask you to be a beta reader, you need to approach the book as if you cannot change it line by line, as if you cannot make because I think the book is at the point where they need big feedback, not small feedback. And not to go too deep into it, but there are many kinds of feedback, and there's no point to polish paragraphs if what they really need is to know if the narrative works. So also save your energy. Also, that's not what they need at this point in time. About the Dormer scene, I actually have a file on my computer that is literally just the Dormer scene rewritten. Oh, you should read that a third time compared to. Wait, okay, this one is good. I don't know if it's a statement about me as a human being, but I didn't mind the scene. I didn't think it crossed the line, and I was almost a bit surprised when Ali asked me, "Is this too dark?" And I'm like, "Ooh, why didn't I think that this is too dark?" Like when I paused and I looked at it, like, "Oh shit, this is fucking dark." But like when I read it, I just like, yeah, okay. I think we should be allowed to tastefully engage with horrible things. And I felt that you did tastefully engage with a horrible thing. And that's how I felt when I read it.
No, and that was the goal, because this was one of those things I had to tackle because it actually happened. So to choose to not do it would have been a choice, but it would have been a writer responding to history and making an erasure choice if I decided not to do it. But then the creative choice is how to engage with this content and actually let's put it on the page. I forget who said it. I'm sorry. But I think you said it, Jay. But you're engaging with a character where until this point you've been on the ride with. They're a hero. There's a lot of likability and a like of humor. And then so as a creative, I'm like, well, okay, how can we actually test an audience relationship to this person who, until this point, has been committing a lot of crimes, but we're okay with it because we're like, crimes against the British, that's okay, fuck the British. But then we get this crime at the midpoint where it's like, oh, okay, that's an actual morally grey deed. And I think James
morally black, Ali, okay? Not
morally black, gray. Not even grey.
Yeah, morally
black at this point.
It's not a grey area.
I think, James, I distinctly remember your feedback where it was like 2 chapters later you would send something to the effect of like, oh, I don't know how we can come back from this, but then after 2 chapters later, you're like, oh, I'm back from this. I like
Back,
Will
yeah,
again.
yeah. Yes, I remember. I think that we had spoken about that scene previous. So when I was starting my beta read, I knew that was coming. So I think I had a bit of an idea of like, I guess I was primed for it. So it probably didn't strike me as like being that big a thing, or maybe not being that big a shift. But kind of like Matan, like I always like that kind of stuff in the story. I kind of like when something is being pushed, they're kind of pushed out there. And I also really like when we get to see that darker side of a character and it kind of challenges our perceptions of them, kind of makes us question, like, how do I feel about this person? And then, well, what's you know what I mean? Not just how do I feel about this person, but the kind of indecision of like, do I like this person? Do I disagree with this person? Can I talk myself into forgiving this person and things like that?
Yeah.
So what I really liked about it, because like I said, I was like, God, this is so bad what he's done. Like, how does he come back? I was back on his side very quickly. So I liked that up and down that was happening. That was the point in the story that I really realized I was like, God, I'm really digging this character, because it's like I don't know how to feel about him. And because of that, I was like, I don't know what he might do next to push me even farther out, and then will he draw me back in? So that's something I really, really like. And that was something I really liked about the scene. Generally, I didn't realize that it was something that had happened. I thought it was like I thought it was something in the I knew there's something that is plot necessary at that point. He has a goal and he's doing this to get to that goal. But I thought that was something that you would come up with to have him. That was the thing that he did. So when I was giving my feedback, I knew that I just wrote loads and loads out about it. Sometimes I have to write a lot about something to figure out how I feel about it. And then I have to stop and say how much of this is me figuring out how I feel and how much of this is actually something that a writer could use to figure out how the scene is landing. So I often just try to provide the easiest synopsis of how I interpreted something, and then the author can decide what they thought of it and whether or not that's important. And then I try to do a little bit of guesswork in like once I finish the story, to come back and be like, what was perhaps the author's intention with this scene, and what was it trying to do, and is it doing that as well as the author wanted to, or is there something in there that I think might be hiccuping what they're trying to get across? So that's usually how I try to do that.
Yeah. May I just politely and respectfully comment that, James, this is totally something your characters would pull? Like, in general? Like, you're at home with this. Your guys would definitely.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, no, this scene, I think, aside from the start, the Dormer scene's the one that's undergone the most edits. And then even again, the final version notes from Michael, notes from the publisher, there were a lot of notes on this. So it's not radically different, but I think I ended up pulling a lot of stuff out as well, because my habit was kind of, I overwrote some stuff in the version that went to the publisher. So there was a lot of just like paring back. So yeah. Anyway, after all this massaging, we kind of have to trust that the scene sits. And I guess to peel back the curtain for listeners who are fighting with structural stuff, this was my midpoint of the story, but it's a story told in 2 timelines. There's the real action timeline, and then there's flashback timeline, I guess is the easiest way to explain it. And the midpoint is actually happening in the flashback timeline. Like, this Dormer scene is something he's reflecting on that happened in the past. And all my advice to writing students is never do that. Make your midpoint the something in the current timeline, the main action. Your midpoint should be like one of the most important parts of your story. But just the way I'm trying to force a historical event into the structure of a narrative timeline, I kind of had to pick the most dramatic, emotional moment, if not for William, but the most emotional moment the audience will have in the whole book. It kind of goes towards the decision of making the Dormer scene the midpoint. It does fall kind of precisely at that 50%.
It's the musical theatre structure.
Yes.
Your most intense emotions have to be right at the midpoint to keep the audience going on. And the Dormer scene's really interesting. Sorry to interrupt. I'm not an editor, as we said, but kind of reading it in its original third-person perspective is... This might make me a psychopath. I didn't feel like Will was a bad person after this. To me, the context of
Nothing but green flags.
well, it was okay. It's a desperate times call for desperate measures situation at that point, but I don't know whether the line made it in, but had Dorma tried before? No?
No.
Okay,
don't
I
think so.
wasn't entirely
Oh.
sure, but there's a line from Will
No.
at one point where he turns to Dorma and says, "I seek an expert in the matter," as to whether or not Will had just been eyeing off this man's misery. No doubts they were clearly aligned for the same fate. Will obviously a bit more resilient in one way, but at the same time, knowing that, well, they're both going in the water, may as well just try and use one of them to the advantage. That's what it is. Is there's this wonderful nature about him is that through it all, his journey does have to come back to how does he get home? And
how far is someone willing to go to their own survival? I guess.
And we do know how far this man is willing to go. And the interesting thing is, as an audience member, obviously in a third person, because we're not privy to his thoughts at that moment, you start to think to yourself, you're like, maybe I might. So I think in the third person, maybe it was harder for me to kind of look at Will as someone who really did wrong.
Okay. And there's a case study on Nathan, everyone.
No, but he's got a point. He's got a point. I mean, we know that people will they'll do anything for anything, okay? Anything that someone wants to get, history will show us that someone will do anything you can imagine. As horrible as you can imagine. So I don't find that Will has crossed this insane line. But I am definitely with James. Like, yeah, like when you think about the relatability and likability of a character, that's something to consider. And I'm super excited to read the first person version of the novel because of that. Because I want to see like how is this going to be presented from a much deeper angle.
All right.
I definitely think he crosses a line.
Just to put that out there.
No, I mean like in terms of
just to say,
I'm
like,
not saying I
think it,
condone.
On reflection, tossing a man overboard.
He hasn't invented something, okay? That's what I'm trying to say. He's not the.
And this is why, ladies and gentlemen, why I've received so much feedback on this one scene. It's a good book club scene, is what I'm getting out of this. You're gonna get people talking.
That's the upshot.
New tagline. How far are you Williaming to go?
Yes.
Incredible.
Yes. All right, folks. So just looking at the time, I'm now going to throw it over to mutiny time. I've asked enough questions. Did anyone have any questions for me? For any maybe topics I haven't covered yet that you feel that should be covered? Jay has raised her hand.
I was thinking about it with the Dorma scene because I remember the only other scene I really bumped against that like made me go, "Will, what are you doing?" Was at the end with the young fella. What's his name?
Tommy.
I want to say Tommy.
Tommy.
Yeah. And I wanted to know if you got much feedback on that scene and kind of how it played out in the final draft.
So you got one of the very early versions, and yeah, I remember you did bump because you're like, "Ali, is this grooming?" Question mark. And I'm like, "Good question."
I was concerned.
You're like, "I have some consent questions." And I put a lot of effort into trying to rip out, I like the moral complexity of it and the situation these characters find themselves in and the choices they're going to make in this very small social extreme situation. So trying to preserve all that, but then also addressing all the rightful concerns you have. I put a lot of work into trying to make that scene. Tommy had to be dialed up through the whole manuscript. Tommy had to be giving signs that would lead to that moment. It had to be consensual on Tommy's part. So I think the version everyone else read after you probably had those elements of Tommy dialed up. I mean, it's too late now, but everyone's welcome to tell me if it still felt uncomfortable. But for context for our listeners, this is kind of a trigger moment between William and Tommy that kicks us off into the climax fallout of the whole novel. So it's kind of the catalyst for everything goes very poorly.
I have a question.
This be a gentle mutiny here. And what that means is that it's very low stakes, but all the drama.
For those
We
listeners,
here are a couple of clearly sexy pirates. Look at this man, he holds my lantern. We have a question for you, Miss Burnham. Is the book sexy at all? Are there any parts that will leave us uselessly fanning our faces with our hands? If the answer be nay, we'll be on our way. But you will have lost a reader. But if you answer yay, we will take that book by the proper channels. We will take that book. But you will have some very critical readers up in your words, so answer carefully, Miss Burnham.
I understand. This is a terrifying moment. We're facing a mutiny, and this mutiny's happened at a very excellent moment as we're discussing Tommy. To answer your question, we have one fade to black scene that's probably been dialed. Who's got the spiciest version? I don't know. I think James and Paddy received. It was dialed up a little bit.
My version was pretty spicy. I was happy with the spice. To answer your question, mysterious pirate who's appeared on the podcast, you'll find it very saucy, very racy.
Excellent.
With relations of all genders.
What has changed since I read it? I don't remember much sauce going on.
Sauce has increased, race has increased.
Wow.
There's more simmering
Where with any sauce in mine?
No, you didn't read a saucy.
No.
Okay, no, there's
good.
We've got
Maybe
one.
the sauce comes on the side.
In her head being like, what are you talking about? Okay, so the alphas and the betas, there has been a dial-up of spice between right?
Yeah.
I got to give my boss a masturbation scene. Like, fucking, I'm excited that I get to go.
That's new.
We've all been there. We've all been there.
Who is this pirate?
What it is.
How did you get in here?
Yeah, no, I don't think anyone's read the masturbation scene.
Wow.
It's very tastefully done. I kind of had to do it that.
Excellent.
Anyway, he's having a memory, and then it's kind of hinted at. You're like, what's happening while he's having this memory? And then if you're a clued-in reader, you might go, that's what's happening while we're having this memory.
And if a pirate were to want to steal this book legally, where would I steal it with? If I were to exchange it and steal it that way by exchanging currency for the book, like a legal thievery, that's how I like to say it.
The blue.
That's how I imagine Canadian pirates. Just saying.
If you are Australian, you'll be able to walk into your local bookseller. A2, what store are we walking into to buy it? We're not walking.
We're not going there.
You walk into any bookstore.
Any bookstore.
Any bookstore.
Any bookstore in Australia?
Every bookstore.
You could.
Wow.
I cannot yet confirm that all of our bookstores will be stocking it, but I will be doing my absolute best.
Oh no! But
I haven't had a conversation with the person I need to have a conversation with.
And if you walk into your local bookstore and you're like, order in this book, technically they should have the ability to do it because there's a distributor and they anyway.
Would there be shipping across the seas?
So book selling is.
Thanks, Nate. I appreciate it.
It's got to go on a tall ship. So this fun thing happens. So the ANZ rights of what's been sold, Australian and New Zealand, and then there's a woman, and it's her job to sell it on to the other territories. Anyway, she's kind of been geared up with everything from today to start doing her job. So she goes to all the book markets and she's like, hey, United States, hey, Europe, would you like to buy the rights to this book? So, yes, the other territories might be sold on, fingers crossed, and that's what will allow it to go into bookstores across the globe. If that doesn't happen, though, or you're impatient, you can email the publisher directly, which is Westward Books, and we can arrange sticking it in the post and getting it over
on,
international.
on the one hand, I am impatient. On the other hand, I want to help the statistics. So should I just buy twice?
Matan, you get a free copy, man. It's all good.
Aw.
Would there happen to be like a siren song of this story as well? For my ears, perhaps.
Be careful with their songs. They're not very good.
Perhaps telling a tall tale.
Not if we're singing.
Are you offering
Ali.
yourself, mate?
Tale instead.
I'm not picking up what you're putting down.
Clearly not. Forget about it. Audiobook with my dear.
Audiobook. Oh, at some point there might be an audiobook. Yes.
Oh.
Not read by me, for that matter. I am not reading this one.
Yes, no. Long-time listeners of the podcast would have heard us talk about Rupert Degas. We're in conversation with Rupert Degas, and wouldn't it be exciting if that also comes to fruition? That Rupert
Yes,
Degas?
it would.
Yes,
Indeed.
Yes, it would.
reads
Indeed.
the audiobook. All right, folks. So I'm going to end on one final question. We've discussed that this is a trilogy. That's if our mutinous pirate gives back the reins to the captain. But I was going to ask. We know that book 2's coming out. Eventually, it's got to be written first. There will be a book 2 set in Japan as either cheerleaders or those who have read the book. The manuscript already. What are you excited about the future of William's journey? What are you excited to find out what happens next?
I'm excited to go to Moogie.
Moogie, yeah,
I get to visit. I'm excited for that part of the journey, which is happening the soonest, even sooner than I will be reading the book. So that will be fun. I don't know much about that part of the journey yet, but I'm keen to find out.
You're probably going to learn a lot on the ground.
If we're talking about William's actual journey, it's where he ends up at the end of his story arc. Won't say too much for spoilers, but that's wild. When I found out that really happened, I was like, oh, that's interesting on like a global historic scale. That's really cool. So, listeners, you'll know when you know, I guess.
2029, folks.
Yeah, 2029. Wow. Oh.
Yes, I'm definitely interested in getting more of John and getting more of that backstory and seeing what's going on there.
Yeah, that too.
That's a lot of book 2. Book 2's pretty much
yes,
John's
really looking
book.
forward to that.
Yeah.
Great.
I'm just waiting to see whether you will follow history to a T, or especially with regards to the ending, if you allow yourself like a switcheroo kind of ending. I'm not gonna say much more than that, but I think you have the opportunity because of the great lack of actual information to pull some interesting things, and I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I will say on that a lot of very interesting things happen during the trial. And so for listeners, I'm planning on making the trial book 3, but there's just a lot of people make a lot of decisions in the trial that don't make any sense. You're like, if this person's done this the entire time, why are they suddenly changing their story at the trial? We don't actually have answers to that. So as a writer, I get to be like, I get to invent why they change their tune on the stand suddenly. So I feel like I have a lot of freedom to pull some stuff towards his ending. So that'll be a lot of fun. It'll be probably where the story, I won't be able to claim it's as historically accurate as book 1, but mainly because we don't have anything pinning it to truth. We don't know why these people say what they say on the trial. So that's where creatives get to play.
Just knowing that he ends up in Japan now, or that, just the scope and the breadth of his adventure. Now I'm like, ooh, I kind of like know now that this is an adventure I want to sign on to. It's like, I got to see where this guy goes, because I know where he starts and I know a bit about where he goes, and that's like, and it actually happens. So I'm like, okay, I wanna check in on this guy.
Phoenix, you missed this pirate that busted in here just like 5 minutes ago. It was wild.
I went to the bathroom for a minute
Yeah,
and I came back and
yeah.
the door was locked and then I opened it and these two very polite men came out. But I don't know. Gruff voices, but very, very
Gentlemen.
very polite.
Yeah.
They had
very
this cool
gentlemanly.
head
Yeah.
thing. It was great.
Wow.
Yeah, I think the little fun that we had the other weekend of just still stumbling across odd possibilities in the research.
Nathan went and discovered a new fact.
We're
the other
not
weekend.
sure, but there is some interesting things, like marriage records. Obviously, they have been kept quite well in the UK, and just as this isn't a spoiler, but when men were transported, their wives were generally regarded as widows. That's all I'll say. Is that there's some
Interesting.
fun things that just
I mean, if you're sent to a prison on basically Mars,
Yeah.
we're
Yeah,
not
for
expecting you back.
Yeah.
We're not expecting
Yeah.
you back. I'm sorry.
So it's just
It's
an
true.
immediate kind of
You're free to remember.
widow.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, interesting.
Yes, no, I was aware of one fact, but Nathan went and found another one, and we're just trying to verify it. Because that's the thing about this is people connect records, but it just could be someone with the exact same name at a similar time, and someone's like, oh, that's the same record, and they just hook it up. And it's like, well, actually, no, there's a lot of unpicking you need to do, and it's like, oh, there's a surprising amount of assumed connecting of records that, you know, the closer you look, you go, oh, that's actually someone's fucked up here. I've stumbled across countless of those during this. Like, I think even Nathan this morning was like, oh, he was arrested for stealing sheep. And I'm like, I'm 99% sure he wasn't arrested for stealing sheep. I'm really confident of that. We have a testimony where he's admitting to something else happening at the time that has nothing to do with sheep, but it's just someone behind the scenes has gone, I found a record that's close enough, so therefore I'm going to write with authority that he was arrested for stealing sheep. And it's you just kind of got to look a bit closer to unpack all the human errors that are happening in all these records. It's a more art than science.
I gotta say though, like you hear this, there's that joke about like, when did you become an expert on blah 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 blah? Like you ask that to an author and it's like last night or whatever. Like, but it's it's so true that authors, if you do the book due diligence and stuff like you are, like you do accidentally become a historian or accidentally become a hobbyist in some facet of the world. Like, and that's very real. Like you have this information in your head. You are now a official William Swallow historian. Like,
Sorry to tack onto that thing is that there's like 3 or 4 other people that are actually focused on
William
story alone. There's a few that have been done on the Cypress, but to ask people, you are now probably one who has done just as much research as the rest of the scholars. You talk about being on guardrails for historical fiction. It's almost as if the more you know, the more freedom you have to play.
Yes, because then I can be very intentional with when I'm choosing to do something. Like that was the trick with writing my author's note, like just last week, is like, so the author's note is me spelling out at the end of the book what is fact, what is fiction, and saying, well, this is why I bent this. So I'm telling you what the actual truth was, and here's my reasoning for doing it slightly different. And that was a lot of fun because I could finally put it on paper in a way I'd never done before to be like, oh, this character is fiction and this is why. And I guess the neat thing is every time I've invented something, I went to William because William's testimony is full of lies and it's full of invention and it's full of him just making shit up to cover his own tracks. So if William invents this boat and he invents this captain, I've gone, well, I need a fake boat and a fake captain. I'm taking it from William's own mouth. So it's kind of like lies, his lies become my fiction. And I've always tried to weave that the whole way through. So it's kind of, it's not real, it's quote unquote fiction, but it has a place in kind of, I don't know, I'm calling it like the canon of truth. Because it was said at some point, it was made up. and then I'm weaving it into mine. And likewise with the
Whoa.
song that Frank the Poet wrote, that you can look up. Frank the Poet just makes up a couple of characters because he needed a couple of characters to fit into the stanzas of his song. And I'm kind of like, oh, well, these aren't real characters. They've been invented, but wouldn't it be cool if I take these already invented characters in the canon of William Swallow and put them in my book? So it's kind of like the myth gets to perpetuate. So yes, I've always tried to, if I'm making something up, it's still connected to something that's been done by another creative or William himself, the lying bastard. So on that note, that feels like a natural-ish ending, folks. I've kept you all for long enough. Thank you so much. All you incredible beta readers and cheerleaders. I love you all so much. Thank you for saying such wonderful things about the Swallow. Listeners, you've heard me talk about this book on this podcast before. I'm very excited for you to all grab a copy. Yes, we kind of muddled how you can grab it. But look, honestly, it's very likely you can walk into a bookstore and grab it. And if not, it's also available. Go to the Westwards website, Westwards Books, and you can definitely grab a copy from there from November onwards. It's technically on pre-sale now, pre-orders, so you can super secure it. And the good thing about ordering through Westwards is like I'll sign every copy. Like you'll get a signed copy if it comes direct from publisher. So thank you all for listening to Pros and Cons. This has been an extra chaotic, mutinous episode. We had pirates wandering in and hijacking the conversation. If you liked this podcast, are we still doing this where we say leave a review on the podcast? Yeah, Paddy's telling me we are still doing this. Well, on whatever platform you listen to the podcast, leave us 5 stars. And all right, I'm going to do the thing where we do the tagline. Would someone like to tell us first we're going to do a con of
We're doing that?
and then we're going to do a pro of Swallow.
It's still a thing.
Yeah, well, we
Yes,
do
it
pros
is.
and cons of what we've learned.
The pros. I have the pros of the Swallow.
Wait,
the cons
wait,
first.
Matan.
The joke,
you
isn't
don't,
it?
you don't
Doing
get
the
to,
cons first?
You also don't.
Isn't the con that he's a lying bastard?
William is a lying bastard. He's technically a con.
It's true.
See, I was disappointed that no one made that joke right at the start. You're all pathetic.
Pros and cons and cons.
Yes.
It was right there.
He's a con.
He is also a pro. Whoa.
Yo, pro.
Whoa.
Beautiful. That feels like an end of an episode. Thank you all for listening. Thank you for all for joining. And bye-bye.
You're listening to Pros and Cons, the Precipice Fiction podcast.